Everybody, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome back to the DCU Experience on a Thursday. We haven't done this since episode number 1. Nick's got the party popping off there in the bottom left. How's everybody feeling? We had to do a part 2 because there was so much information that came out yesterday that we could not contain it in a single podcast. And even more came out today, which we're going to have to get to next week because it's completely unrelated to what we're talking about as far as the part 2 goes today. As is the case with every single episode, we are sponsored by GamerSupps. If you'd like to save 10% on delicious drinks, cups, ramen, playmats, waifu cups, go to gamersupps.gg/key issues to save 10% on your next order. Crisis, Nick, True, and myself are all in the building. We are assembled here for part 2, and today we're talking animation, the animated studios wing of DC Studios. Plus, we're going to talk all about that Wonder Woman news. Nick is going to get into that. He's going to be my co-host, if you want to call it that, for part 2.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. But we're in part 1 now. We're in part 1 of part 2. So we'll call this part 2.1. And we're going to jump right into it here with the news that we got. We got some information about the Blue Beetle series, which is still continuing forward, but it looks like it doesn't right now have a green light. Is that correct? Is that the way I was reading that? It's been written, has producers, but I don't think it's got the official green light. I think they have yet to pitch the final product to James Gunn. That's what it looked like to me, which is a bit concerning because I thought it was already locked in on the slate, but at least there are passionate people behind it.
Their animation team is busy making the 9th Batman Ninja movie. So, you got to give them a little time, Garrick. It's not, come on. Yeah. I thought it was greenlit. I thought they were happy with everything, and it seemed to indicate, James has seemed to indicate in multiple interviews that he's good with he wants the Jaime Reyes in the DCU, and he wants to expand on that mythos from the first, from the film within the animated format. Maybe we're just not ready to put the dollars and cents behind it yet. I don't know. If we don't have a title card when we have title cards for other stuff, it's not where it needs to be yet. But I'm pretty confident it's coming.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
The Variety article here says that Safran said he expects the executive producers to present the project for a possible green light, quote unquote, pretty soon. So I guess it's they know they want to do Blue Beetle. James has said as much. I'm pretty sure he was the one to had the first word on it that they're doing an animated thing. Mm-hmm. But the outright project, as it were, has not been presented. So I'm assuming, again, for most animated series, there's a Bible, character sheets, a rough outline of the plot, how many episodes. That's information you need before you start allotting funds.
Yeah.
But I think I do agree with Nick in that I would bet money that this is going to happen. They're going to make this, and I feel like it's one of those things too where Blue Beetle was inherited from the old regime, mm-hmm. whereas something like the cartoons we're about to discuss, those are first and foremost James Gunn joints, as it were, and so I think those are up in front. Whereas something like Blue Beetle is something he wants to do, but it's gonna be a little bit more down the pipeline.
I like how you took the concept of the Spike Lee joint and just gave it to James Gunn.
Well, James Gunn's got that aura, bro. I mean, did you see him in that variant comic with him and Superman? I mean, come on now.
That was a cool cover.
Bro,
he was kind of mogging Zack Snyder. He's taller than him. If you notice, Zack was leaning into him.
The number one James Gunn glazing podcast, week in, week out. We're here for the title, ladies and gentlemen, and no one's taking it from us.
Yeah, I'm starting this week because Nick's been going at him pretty hard for the past 7 weeks.
Maybe starting next week.
A guy can't threaten a friend that he's never met 20 times a week.
To be fair, but True is alluding to what we're going to talk about later. I don't know how
So-
much James Gunn had to do with that. Okay,
Nah,
I'll be his defense lawyer later. I'm gonna say my
I've got some
client
words for Gunn.
is innocent and had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
But
No.
yeah, Blue Beetle. I mean, I thought it was a project that was going to be like the first animated thing that came out after Creature Commandos.
too.
That was
Yeah.
where I was at. My headspace was ready for more Jaime Reyes, especially since like the cast is returning, the producer, the writer, the director, writer coming back as producers. I thought that was like something that was going to be fast tracked, but something I guess they're still very interested in. They want a green light, as Crisis said, but not quite yet. I hope that is true and it's not going to be something that's like, yeah, we want to do it, but like if you want to do it, then just aren't you guys the like can't you just say we're gonna make it? Like what is the
I authorize me to do what I want.
that's what I'm
You
saying.
guys, though, yeah. But yeah,
That's how adults do stuff. We go, I want to buy that thing. Do I need to ask permission? Yes, I give myself permission.
Once I got
Yeah.
expendable income as an adult, I was just like, this is lit.
Hell yeah.
I just bought a new
Hence-
CPU and a
hence
cooler,
the-
so
Yeah.
Hence the hundreds of action figures behind me.
I'm not even talking about that stuff. I'm talking about like name brand Captain Crunch and Dr. Pepper. Like I'm not drinking
Yeah.
Dr. Thunder, buddy. Those days are behind me.
Cereal
We're not going
from
back to
boxes.
RC Cola.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
big bags of
Giant bags, industrial, like cement
Yeah.
bags. Like,
green and
huge.
and pink balls of what I don't even know what the flavor is.
Compressed sugar with syrup.
Cinnamon toast crisps.
Yeah.
But-
I got Cookie Crisp now and Cinnamon Toast Crunch. So
The cool thing, the thing about the Blue Beetle show, though, that I think that makes me so excited is the first film was very much a kind of a coming of age story, also wrapped in the whole. I mean, for those of you who aren't familiar with Blue Beetle or Green Lantern, which I don't know how most of you wouldn't be at this point, but they're very similar in terms of like it's an intergalactic weapon that finds its way to an unsuspecting person, and they just kind of have to learn to deal with the powers of having that thing, right? But a lot of Blue Beetle stuff takes place in space. So having having it be out in or having it be animated kind of opens up the world in terms of what you can do animation wise, in terms of the storytelling you can do, in terms of the character creation and the stories that you can tell that maybe might have been limiting for like a live action series or another film or something like that. And they have all this other stuff they're working on. So I'm really excited to see what they do. I thought the first film was really good. It's like one of those sleeper films that I've watched a couple times since it came out. I haven't really watched a whole lot. I haven't really rewatched a lot of superhero cinema after I see it in the theater, maybe one time at home, other than the Batman, which I've seen 200,000
how many times have you seen the Suicide Squad?
Which the James Gunn, the Suicide Squad? Which one is it? I don't
The
remember.
Suicide
anymore.
Squad.
James's. I don't remember.
The Suicide Squad.
Yes.
whichever one you think.
I'm
But
just
I
gonna
answered
keep
you.
saying
The
that.
the only Suicide Squad movie they've ever made.
Yeah, the
Well-
only one with Katana in it, right? So
Okay, the one with Katana, if that's Suicide Squad,
That
I've
is
seen
Suicide Squad.
once.
Yeah.
The Suicide
Wait,
Squad.
actually
I've
only
seen
once?
20 times.
Wait.
I've only ever seen it one time.
I'm just gonna say you're missing out.
You are low key. Just core memory
I've seen the
for me.
clip of Katana
Crisis
being
is gone.
introduced.
He's taking the headphones off. Core memory for me. We'll get right back to Blue Beetle. I promise. Core memory. The early days of the Key Issues Discord. Me, True, and a bunch of other guys were in voice call, and we decided to watch the 2016 Suicide Squad and just roasted it the entire time. Great memory.
it was
Just every
perfect.
single second there was something to point out that was just ridiculous and just funny
Yeah.
in retrospect. So I've seen it twice. But the Suicide Squad, yeah, I've watched that
I'll
a
watch
bunch
it
of
tonight.
times. You should watch the Suicide Squad again.
Well, I love that movie.
Yeah, I've seen it like at least 6 or 7. But back to Blue
Again,
Beetle, we have
Number one, James Gunn
Yeah.
Blazing podcast.
We are.
of course, we have a lot of Blue Beetle exposure outside of just the movie. Like, I think this is a character that DC has done a decent enough job at pushing.
Unlike Wonder Woman.
Unlike Wonder Woman, a pivotal character within series like Young Justice, also appeared frequently in Batman: The Brave and the Bold, and other projects. I think it's a character that younger audiences are definitely familiar with. I think maybe if they played their cards right, they could have a sort of Miles Morales Spider-Man situation on their hands, just because of how important the character could be to the demographic that he represents. Not to mention, he's just a badass character with cool powers and has that sort of Spider-Man relatability outside of the sort of bug-related superpowers. But I think Blue Beetle,
especially with the Iron Spider now,
True.
Blue Beetle is
I think
retroactively more similar than different.
he could be there for sure, especially like we talked about it before, but if they keep that like anime influence that the character had in the live action series and bring that into an actual animated show, it could just do gangbusters. All you have to do is just have like a kid that's relatable to anyone between the ages of like 15 and 20 and have him have a cool fight scene like twice, and your show is just going to blow up Insano style. So really hope that does get the official green light. I guess we're in a yellow light situation right now, but yeah, definitely something that we all want to see. As far as things sorry, go ahead, Drew.
I just wanted to mention that I do actually also like the fact that they're keeping the exact same creative team, because it gives continuity across the different shows that they're going to be making. So all the voices are going to be pretty similar, and if you like one of the products, you will end up liking other things. And I do kind of hope that's how it works with the other projects. It's you did X really well, so we'll just continue to have that creative team work on it, so there's a level of consistency in the writing and it doesn't feel disjointed like other franchises.
I also think, to piggyback off that a little bit, there aren't many animated superhero shows that are literally sequels to the movies. I think the MTV Spider-Man show was sort of a sequel to the first Raimi movie, but that didn't have any of the same writers or directors really involved. Usually it's like the animated series is kind of vaguely inspired by the Keaton movie. That's like a big example of more so brand synergy rather than like this is a sequel, which is something that, James kind of marketed his universe as having from the get-go, is continuity, like True was saying, between live action and animation. And I think, outside of like Peacemaker and Vigilante appearing in Creature Commandos, and I guess Waller, Economos, and that side of the universe, having Blue Beetle be that first example, I think that would be really strong. And man, I would feel super lucky to be that cast and crew, because not many people from that era are being as easily shepherded in, Lobo withstanding.
Yeah, that's 100% for sure. I mean, the only other example I could like think of is Gotham Knight, which was like a sequel to Batman Begins, but that wasn't even a series. That was like an anthology film, which I absolutely love. You should definitely check it out if you never have and you're a fan of the Nolan stuff. And it is canon. I know it's very like not well known, but it's badass and it gives a lot of cool history to that version of Batman. But the other series that we're getting are really interesting because I'm not exactly sure how they line up within the DCU. We have Starfire, we have My Adventures with Green Lantern, and we have DC Superpowers. Now, Starfire, out of those three, is by far the most interesting to me, not only because I'm a Teen Titans stan, but because where it stands as far as being in the DCU is sort of unknown at this point. And the prospect of it being in the DCU excites me more than something like My Adventures with Green Lantern. While I do like Jessica Cruz and I do like My Adventures with Superman, I'm more invested in the DCU at this point as something I really want to put my time into. I'll watch all of it, but it's just I want to know more about this universe, what we're going to get, and what can, I expect in the future. So how do you guys feel about Starfire versus something like My Adventures with Green Lantern? Are you more excited for something potentially being in the DCU? And if it wasn't in the DCU, would you be disappointed? I think I would be very, very disappointed if it wasn't. But that's just like first thoughts.
I think that's what we're looking for, right? We want them to deliver on the promise that it's all kind of coming together to be connected. If you're going to have a Starfire animated series, we know you're going to have a Teen Titans film. Let's connect them in whatever way we can. You know, animated shows are typically shorter format. Look at Creature Commandos; those episodes were only 30 minutes max. You know, I think some of them were a little shorter than that. So we know we're going to get high quality animation. I anticipate that it's going to be aimed at a younger demographic because Starfire is a younger character. And I think there's a lot of world building that could be done there. And the important thing is with a lot of these series rather than films is I think they get a lot of the legwork out of the way so that when you put these characters who, you know, Starfire is a well-known character, especially more amongst your generation than my generation, just because I'm a couple years older than you guys. But it gets the legwork out of the way for incoming viewers. You know, people binge stuff like this all the time. Get a little bit of her backstory, get maybe a rogue, get some supporting cast down, so that when she comes in, you have a little bit of background info on her. Because other Teen Titans members, you know, Robin, things like that, Cyborg, depending upon who's in the Teen Titans that they put together, I think the audience has a lot more exposure to that character than, say, Beast Boy, Starfire, that kind of thing. So I think those are great. Those are great choices for characters to do an animated series for. Plus, she has a lot of fans and she has a lot of really good stories. From, you know, I haven't read a whole lot of Starfire, I'll be honest. But I just think there's a lot of opportunity there for them to create a cool female character that they can do a lot with outside of just having her as being part of an ensemble team.
Yeah, the only problem with like a Starfire animated series is I would want to like see her within the context of the Teen Titans team. And if that's not going to be the case, then what are we going to do with the character? Are we going to have her like...
Yeah, let's be honest. They'll have other superheroes.
Well, I'm not saying that they won't. The thing I'm saying is like she typically would operate within the confines of that team. And if she's not, then are we going to do her backstory? And if we're going to do her backstory, that's like really heavy. And like, there's a lot of really, you know, mess up things that happen to Starfire in her before she gets to Earth and her experience on Tamaran. I mean, you could have her obviously be this young girl on this planet.
That's like Paradise Lost territory, like the way that they're describing the Wonder Woman show. If there was a Starfire origin, it would be very similar.
It'd be terrible to like watch on. Like she would just be going through hell every single week. It would be like watching Greyjoy from Game of Thrones just getting tortured relentlessly for weeks, and like it would suck if we actually did like lore accurate Starfire backstory. So I don't know where they're gonna go with it. If it's DCU, like I said, I want Teen Titans. If it's not DCU, then it's gonna be like a show for little girls. Then you know, it is what it is. But it'll be weird if she's not part of the Teen Titans. I don't know what they'll do.
I think a big reason why, because we do have a little bit of plot details. One reason why I would definitely rather see it in the DCU category is because, from what we know, they talk about it will be an origin story, and it will feature Amethyst from Gem World, if these descriptions are to be believed, which that character, I think, has a lot of untapped potential. The way that I was introduced to her is in like 2011, like Young Justice Season 1 era. Cartoon Network had the DC Nation shorts, and she had was very anime inspired, and you know, that character is kind of a holdover from, I believe, the 70s or 80s, and kind of a young girl sword and sorcery angle of a character, which I think would fit very well with Starfire. But I think that kind of subject matter, we haven't seen that much in other comic book, you know, media, especially a big multimedia cinematic universe. And I think having that be the gateway to these more expansive concepts, because Gem World is just another dimension. We haven't really reached that. I don't even think the old, you know, DCEU featured things like that. You know, you had the Speed Force, but outside of that, there really wasn't like, here's another realm with this totally different culture. Not to mention the fact that Starfire is from an alien planet. We just haven't done that kind of deep exploration yet. You know, we got like Starro, just one-off aliens, and I guess the Peacemaker butterfly species, but really like we're on an alien planet, and now we're in another dimension. I think the opportunities for world building there, and then also, Starfire, she shows up on the Teen Titans. A lot of the tie-ins and like the tales of the Teen Titans, a lot of those issues are dedicated to her backstory. So I think getting those up front in a series that could work on its own, but then also informs, the viewers of the inevitable, Teen Titans movie.
Yeah.
I think that is a good example of this kind of, the way that we've been describing it, or at least I have, is this kind of tightrope that James Gunn wants to walk of, this isn't necessary. It works on its own, but of course, inevitably, like we kind of said last time, it will add to your enjoyment having seen this character go through certain trials and tribulations and form her personality. So just the way that the little bit of plot we have so far, I would really like that to be in the DCU, because I'll be honest, if it's just some disposable, kid show out of continuity, it's set in its own thing, I think I'd rather see a lot less of those. I mean, to me, that kind of sounds like an artifact of, the Nolan verse, or like Superman Returns, like that era of being a DC fan, where it's like, okay, here's a new show. We know for a fact it's going to be its own thing.
And it's going to get canceled after 2 seasons. And
then it get canceled.
It'll be peak, which, to give them credit, a lot of those animated series are sick. Beware
even
the Batman, the Green Lantern stuff.
Right. Even the CW had it had kind of moved on. There's like a bunch of tie-in comics to that. There's that like animated movie. They've made appearances in different forms. So I think the larger conversation around like, do we want these to be canon or not? I would probably say yes most of the time.
Yeah,
unless,
I want everything
again,
to be canon. I want everything that DC makes to be part of the DCU. If it's a movie, unless it's like, I think something that was
you need space for like Batwheels, that is a show I'm sure none of us have watched it, but very like little kids. There should be stuff like that.
Yes,
but
I also think it's fine for like Elseworld stuff, because we already have My Adventures with Superman, which I'm assuming was a product of pre-James Gunn days. Like that had to be in production for a while. Everybody likes that, like universally pretty much. So if you want to continue that, that's like a established Elseworld. Or if there's somebody that has like a crazy kooky idea that they want to do, then that's fine. But I want like the majority of stuff to be DCU canon. And to your point, we're talking about like, okay, we have a potential Starfire like vehicle here where we can tell some of that backstory that will inform the Teen Titans movie or the Titans movie. And we can sort of let that do some of the heavy lifting in terms of letting us get to know these characters more. So that leads into like the dynamic duo, like hybrid puppet CGI animated film starring Jason and Dick. And if that were to be worked into the DCU, which is something that James Gunn says he wants to happen, but it may not happen because the way the scripts are working out, I'm assuming between Brave and the Bold, the Titans movie, and Dynamic Duo, there's a lot of moving parts going on. So are we going to be able to put that into the canon? We're not really sure. But with that being said, Starfire and the Dynamic Duo could each serve as sort of a foundation that the Titans movie could be built on. So we get some backstory for Robin and or Nightwing. We get some backstory for Starfire. In something else, maybe we get some Raven backstory or Cyborg backstory or Kid Flash backstory, and then it all sort of comes together in Titans. While you may not need to watch all of that stuff to understand the Titans movie, it'll just enhance it all the more. What do you guys think of that? Do you think that is something that makes sense with like what James Gunn is saying? Like the required viewing thing is just very hard for me to like make sense of in my head.
It'll be okay initially, but if you're trying to do any form of crossover, I think that's when it's a kind of fall apart. Especially because the Starfire show will be the first time we've seen anything that's not on Earth, right? It'll be the very first look, because it won't be the Green Lantern, because that's taking place on Earth, right? So this will have to establish like space and how that all works. So if that's established in that show, and then we're doing space stuff in whatever crossover movie, do you just kind of make the assumptions? I think it is a lofty goal that's going to be very, very hard to achieve. And I think the more it goes on, the less likely it will be to achieve, because we're going to get Krypton's backstory in Superman, right? We'll probably understand what happens, but people already know that. Yeah. And then are they going to rehash that in Supergirl? Now, maybe her relationship to how Krypton ended is a little bit different, because she was a teenager at the point, or at least a kid at the point, so she was actively around Krypton. But then, are we going to have to like reintroduce all these lore bits in every single show? Is that not going to get
old,
very tiring, very fast, right? If you're watching more than one of them.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the main issue with that. And for the other point also, I don't mind the idea of having a lot of not DCU content, especially when you have a lot of it. The amount of content that they're planning to put out is 3 shows and 3 movies a year. If all of those are DCU, I might start to get tired a little bit, right? So I don't mind that having a My Adventures with Superman or My Adventures with Green Lantern, which seems to be taking place in the same verse. Give people the space to do something a little bit weird. Now, I think for movies, all the movies should be in the verse, but we've already got the Batman, and we know that's not going to be. I assume that's going to be a trilogy, so it's to be finished up relatively quickly. But I don't really want. Well, yeah, I remember when came out.
Shit's not coming out, bro. I mean, I got the shirt on right now.
Yeah,
we're praying and hoping that maybe one day that script will get turned in.
But, yeah. So I think it's a goal that will be achieved initially, but if this goes on for, let's say, 10 years, the first crossover is going to happen 6 years in, they said.
Yeah.
Okay. After that, do I not need to watch the crossover to know what happened after that? Like, so the crossover had no impact whatsoever on the narrative or the state of the world. Is it that?
Yeah, and Superman 3, do I need to have watched
Justice League?
Yeah. Because if I don't need to,
then it's more than superfluous.
Is then are we going to say there's no like character progression? Because how am I going to understand Superman's character in Superman 3? Did he go through no progression in Justice League or
just like the comics, bro? Just like the comics.
Facts. But I mean,
I was saying in the group chat, I'm like, what happens? Because James Gunn is like, well, we want filmmakers to make whatever films they want, right? And there also seems to be this, every project stands on its own. But what if a filmmaker is like, no, I want this to be very continuity driven. I personally want this other movie to need to be seen before my movie. Is he like, what is James' head gonna explode? Like, what's the protocol there?
That's not getting greenlit, buddy. Sorry, that's getting a red.
But what if it's the best script he's ever seen?
Damn it!
Right.
Genius. Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah,
I'll get Zack Snyder to direct this one. It'll be perfect.
Yeah. What's David Ayer doing? He's got a cut coming out.
Yeah. I think the idea of things being connected is it's just inevitable. I mean, it's a lofty goal to set for yourself, but even when it was done at its best, which we talked about yesterday on the last episode, is Guardians of the Galaxy 3. You don't necessarily need to see Infinity War, but you kind of do, though. Like, you really like to understand where Peter's head is at in the first 10 minutes of that movie. It does not make sense if you have not seen Infinity War and Endgame.
They only kiss in Infinity War. I think that's the only like kiss that Gamora and Peter will share.
And then she dies in that. And at the end of 2, they're all chilling, they're having fun, they just beat Ego, they all became this family. Okay, they're not having fun, but because they just had Yondu's funeral. But it was a really come together moment. And if you skip Infinity War, you skip Endgame, you get into Guardians 3, the beginning of that, Peter is like a drunk that cannot be consoled in any sort of way. They all have their own like sort of they're all running nowhere. That implies you need to watch
And the
this,
holiday.
Yeah, you need to watch the holiday special too. Who's this this Russian dog? Like, you know what I mean?
When did they say Mantis was his sister? Was that in 2?
Yeah, they
you
did.
know,
They
you No, that's what I'm saying. Is
Oh.
people would if it was
no, you
enough to
find out-
stand
you
alone.
Oh
find
wait,
out
you do
that
find that out in the
it's in the
holiday
holiday
special. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying though. Is
Yeah.
in this hypothetical that would be required viewing
Yeah.
in a to be real. You would need to see that to understand. That
Right.
fact, because it wasn't in 2, and then in 3 they just have a passing line, where the team is like, what should we do about Quill? And then Rocket, I think, says, well, Mantis, that's your brother. And then it's like, when did this happen? You have to see
Wait,
the
hold
holiday
on.
special.
What is this?
And these are all James Gunn products. I think James Gunn said, he was like, okay, the Russos, can you please give them a kiss in Infinity War? That was something that he was like, please add that so that
Before
we
you
need that
kill her.
for my characters. Yes, we need to see that. And so
We need to see it
that-
before we brutally murder her in front of
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And so that was all, when that was his sandbox, essentially. And so like, yeah, I think, and it's probably most important to talk about that with the animated shows, because I think those are going to be the hardest squares to circle in the idea of like, you don't need to watch anything to enjoy this, like, because with Blue Beetle, that is a sequel to a movie, right? So let's be real, watch the movie first,
Same with Peacemaker, the live action series. You don't need to watch
Right.
Suicide Squad. I just started Peacemaker season 1 the other day. I watched episode 1. So if we're gonna get on the rewatch, I'm sorry, I already started episode 1, but that's as far as I went. Go ahead and jump into it. But like the beginning of that episode, they show you flashbacks of like the most important stuff for Peacemaker in the Suicide Squad movie, and then the first thing that happens is they're like, you got shot in the throat, and a building dropped on you, and only like your clavicle broke. That's the first thing they tell you. And I guess technically, I don't need to see the movie. They just told me what happened to Peacemaker in it. But realistically, you have to see the movie. Like,
yeah, you have
do.
the flashback scene with him crying about Rick Flag, right? So
yeah,
like,
they give you the
with
flashback
no
that
context,
he
you just
killed Rick Flag, and it's like,
you don't know who Rick Flag is. You don't know the context. Like, that scene doesn't hit hard at all if you don't know who Rick Flag is. Or you don't know what led up to that.
I think given all that, if that same direction and writing is conveyed in the new universe, we really don't have anything to complain about, because it just seems like marketing jargon.
yeah, it does. I mean, I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying, like, if that's the way you're going to do it, then do it. But we want like an interconnected universe. That's like the point of it. And we want to watch it all. And we don't, it doesn't feel like
we will
homework
be
to
watching
us.
it all.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll watch it all anyway.
But
so.
I don't know. You see that like Hideo Kojima tweet the other day where he went to see Brave New World and was like, I don't understand what happened. And
Did I miss something here?
He was
I
a little
vaguely
he was a little
remember.
goofy for not knowing that Sam was going to be Cap, even not watching Falcon Winter Soldier like Captain America gives him the shield in Endgame. But it's all right, Kojima. Maybe you forgot about it. You watch a lot of movies.
He didn't watch
but-
Endgame.
He's too busy
Maybe-
making Death Stranding 2.
Did he also miss every commercial for the movie he was going to see?
Wait a second. I thought
He
this
watches
was
a lot of movies.
He was black in the commercial? I don't remember that.
I was
yeah.
thinking of examples of something that's like this, and the only one that I could actually think of is Mando season 1. You can watch that show knowing maybe very little about Star Wars. You don't even need to watch the Clone Wars really, and you can watch Mando season 1 and get something out of it.
Yeah.
The moment the other
Star Wars is unique. I think, but it's like that's truncated into eras. And so it's like, you don't even need to really watch the prequels to watch the original trilogy. And they're like, what is the safest place to put this? Put it after Return and before the sequels. I don't know if like,
But then
in a
Ahsoka
hypothetical
comes in
DC,
and they completely
right? And then
how do you know?
There, yeah.
It just
Ron.
ends up to the point of, how do you understand anything about the Mandalorians? Do you care if you don't know what happened in Clone Wars? Right? And that's like a very hard, like, season 1 works.
Season 1 was a sell because like Mandalorians, all we know is they're badass, right? Even if you just watch the prequels or you just watch the original trilogy, one of the 2 trilogies. Django is in the first one, he's badass. Boba's in the second one, he's badass. This new guy, is badass. He wears the same armor
Yeah.
and he's a bounty hunter just like those guys. That's all you really need to know. So I don't know. That's like a complete Star Wars is a complete living, breathing thing. Like it has so many different corners and tendrils, and everything is canon basically. And there are a few little things that are not canon that'll come out occasionally. And when that stuff comes out, it's always awesome. And they're like, this should be canon, like the anime anthology series and all that, which was really cool. But I hope that DC is able to make something like that. But that is the extreme end of the spectrum. Star Wars is
It's the end goal.
Yeah. Where it's like literally everything's connected because it's all one continuous story. And if you haven't watched 4 seasons of Rebels and 8 seasons of the Clone Wars, you're gonna be pretty lost if you watch Ahsoka.
Yep.
So
I guess Star Wars also has like the public. It's been around for so long that you probably know what happens in the original trilogy and the prequels,
you
right?
just have absorbed it through
culturally
casual
absorbed,
conversation. Or like
at that
you
point.
watch the Family Guy specials and you get the gist of it, or like the Robot Chicken stuff.
Yeah.
We need more Robot Chicken parodies. The DC ones they used to do back in the day were so funny. I know when the New 52 was coming out, they were doing a bunch of like DC specials to like tie in with the comics, and they had a bunch of comic book variant covers that were Robot Chicken. I have one still of Aquaman like holding up Superman, and he like just killed like all the Justice League or beat them up or something in the Robot Chicken style. But that's it. That's peak. Other than that, we pretty much hit everything except for the DC superheroes, which is going to be a kids show, like for little kids, like toddlers. I don't know. Yeah, they can have it. I don't know if it's going to be canon. If it is canon,
I hope it's canon.
we'll
I
watch
want
it.
Principal.
We'll
I want
review it
Principal
every
Martian
week.
Manhunter.
We'll review
I
it.
want because we got Lightning, which I'm assuming is a Black Lightning Junior or something. Black Lightning. Flash, Plastic Man. I don't know why he's going to school. Aqua Girl. That makes more sense.
He's going back.
Yeah,
to school.
exactly. Green Lantern. Who knows who? Maybe this will be the Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle Rayner. He'll be like
Kyle's
a
a
kindergartner.
teenager. Yeah.
And then Terra.
They're all gonna be like small little chibi head, big headed.
What is this
like,
class?
5-year-olds. It's not.
I
gonna be
hope
canon.
it's canon.
not
I
going to
hope
be.
it's canon, bro. I hope it's
I mean,
canon.
it might
man.
be, but it's
hope
it's
it's
all
canon.
signs point to no. So
Because how cool would it be though if you like rapid fire include all these different heroes
as
where like
toddlers, like
listen, they're in high school. They're in the Alliance School for Heroes. Okay, so maybe that's
I'm
you know,
assuming it's gonna be
every
like
age
Spider-Man
range.
and Friends. I would
Yeah,
guess,
probably.
Super friends for the modern age.
Yeah, just
Which is another thing where, like, with the Starfire show, the showrunner said something of this. It'll explore the corners of the DCU, right?
Yeah.
And that's
a good
why
point, yeah.
I don't like the fact that it's called the DCU. I don't like it for the same reason that like Marvel comic fans don't like the MCU being called 616. It just dilutes things. It makes the conversation annoying, and it creates this thing where like, okay, the DC universe is Earth Prime, Earth Zero, whatever you want to call it, comic book main continuity. That's the DC universe. Okay, the DCU has been like, that was the abbreviation for that, right? If you were to read a post-crisis comic or a New 52 and you'd go to the letters page and there'd be, oh, the DCU is about to change forever, some event, right? That was what it was called. That was the term we had used. And I'm afraid that a lot of these projects, especially in this form, are going to get that label when Elseworlds exists. But I feel like that's like, if you come out of the gate and you say this is an Elseworlds, which I think is a larger thing kind of on the horizon, because with Joker, with Teen Titans Go, with some of these things that he has said, that James has said, these are Elseworlds, a lot of those are pre-existing things, whereas even with Dynamic Duo, just thinking about it, that's something where he's like, I'm not even sure, right? Maybe we can work it in, maybe not. So at a developmental level, these things are not inherently made to be in the universe, right?
Yeah.
And Clayface is another example of that, where like, oh, we just got a good script, right? It's not made to be in the universe. It's good stories that can then get adopted, but then also, again, we keep clashing against these two contradictory notions. he's like, I'll take it if it's a good script. And in the case of Clayface, it's probably going to be in the universe. By Dynamic Duo, clearly that's good enough to get made. It's good enough to get written. But we're like, we're not sure because of continuity, right? Because there's some plan he has, overarching plan for Dick Grayson or Jason Todd or both, that that will be hard to again, like I've been saying, square that circle. It just seems to be a weird quagmire of a problem they're going to keep brushing up against.
And this kind of ties into what I was saying yesterday in the other podcast, is that DC has historically had a problem with announcing stuff.
Yeah.
They announce things
With
and they announce it fast.
not like they're not clear about
They're not
what it
clear.
is. Yeah.
They'll give you a certain amount of stuff. They'll get you really hyped, and then they will string your ass along.
They will rug
You
pull
will get
you.
you're getting ghosted. You get ghosted by them for years, and then they're like, sorry, I didn't have the chemistry. You know what I'm saying? And then the next thing you know, you don't get your cool Dick Grayson puppet movie, but maybe you'll get something else. I don't know.
Even just seeing like character sheets, right? Or like My Adventures with Green Lantern. Why don't you say that's in the Superman universe? Why would you not say that it's in the My Adventures with Superman? Why would that not be the first thing, you know, in this? Because that's a show that people enjoy. You'd think from a marketing perspective, that's well and good enough to put on that bandwagon. For DC Superpowers, like it's pretty obvious it's going to be a young kid show, but we don't know the age range. Like they don't know ahead of time. They don't know what they want the character designs to look like. And again, Wonder Woman, and this could be the good transition for that, is the ultimate example of you're showing us something way too early, and also showing us too little too early, right?
Yeah,
like
that's also true. If you're gonna announce something and like greenlight it, just give us a little bit more so we understand like what is happening from like a continuity level and from do I want to invest myself into this?
Yep.
On a quick note on that, it might also just be because Clayface might just be a character that they don't have many plans for, where we can do an origin movie where we weren't planning on doing one before, and then his origin is just going to end up with him being the antagonist, versus Dick Grayson and Jason, where if they go on this super weird adventure, we now have to fit that into something else, right? And we have much broader plans for them in comparison to Clayface. So it might just be easier to fit something like a Clayface in than a Dick or Jason.
I think it's not necessarily like it's a good problem to have. I think like people being passionate about these characters and wanting to make movies about them, and they hand you a script that's like, okay, this goes hard, and we'll take whatever. Like I think the way the MCU works, and I don't know all of the inner workings of it, but it seems like Kevin Feige has an idea of the shit that he wants to make, and he finds somebody to make it for him, right?
Yep.
Whereas
100%.
this has some of that. James definitely has things that he wants to hit and milestones that he wants to get to. But you can approach him and be like, hey, I want to do this thing. Here's a script for it. Here's a pitch for it. What do you think? Okay, I love it. It doesn't contradict anything else. We can work it into the universe. Or, okay, I love it. How about an Elseworlds movie? Like, we'll do it. I think that's really cool. And I don't think that would happen at Marvel. Like, if somebody was like, I really, really want to make this Squirrel Girl movie. And they come to James Gunn, and not James Gunn, Kevin Feige, and it's like her versus like Thanos or something. Obviously, that's not going to be in the MCU. Sorry, we can't make it. We can give you like a 15-minute special on Disney Plus. You want that?
She can fight Purple Hulk.
Yeah.
We can make that happen for you.
So it just seems like it's a good problem to have. And I think being open to fresh ideas is what's going to make the universe so exciting. So let's get into the Wonder Woman stuff. We got about 15, 20-ish minutes here. Nick, the floor is yours. Let us know what happened with this Wonder Woman game where we were just talking 2 weeks ago. Hey, this is getting delayed. It's fine. It's going to come out. It's probably going to be in the DCU. That's what's going to happen.
I called it. I thought this would happen.
Let's let the experienced host here.
I'll give you full screen. We are True and Crisis will disappear in the background, and Nick is gonna.
All right.
You have the floor.
All right. So I'm gonna read what I prepared here because I prepared a little statement. So if it looks like I'm reading, it's because I'm reading. So all of the information that I'm about to read comes from the Kind of Funny podcast that they had yesterday with Jason Schreier from Bloomberg, who's a really big games journalist. He breaks basically every big story that you guys hear about that generates buzz on Twitter. That's the guy that does it. So some background changes on what happened at WB Games and what led to this Wonder Woman shakeup. So first is yesterday I specifically said I hurled some accusations at David Zaslav, the new head of Warner Brothers. And from what I understand, he has absolutely nothing to do with the changes that took place with the Wonder Woman game in Monolith Studios. The former head of WB Games was a guy named David Haddad. And he stepped down after 12 years following the failure of a number of different high-profile games. Specifically, Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League, Quidditch All-Stars, a couple others. And he was the head of their studio during some of the most profitable years they've had, when like the resurrection of Mortal Kombat was going on, the Batman Arkham Knight series, all that stuff. And he even oversaw or Hogwarts Legacy, which was their biggest selling video game of all time. Came out was it last year?
2 years
before?
No, it's 2 years ago.
So
It's Harry Pottage, by the way.
Harry Pottage, yeah. Hogwattage.
Yeah.
The big problem that people said that they had with David Haddad was that he never seemed to be a development guy. Like he was a business guy first and foremost. He didn't really have a gaming background. So whenever he asked questions, whatever he said, he didn't really seem to have the mind space for that division. He kind of tried to run it a bit more like the classic entertainment industry. So the new acting head of WB Games, you guys are killing me. They're sending me side messages. They're throwing me off my game. The new acting president is a guy named JB Pritt. He comes from a background of streaming, and while he's new to the gaming space, he does have a strong fundamental understanding of the games industry, nonlinear game development, and from what they are mentioning, it seems like he's asking the right questions, his head's in the right space, and he's not necessarily pushing things in the same way that others used to push, like specifically live service games. So now back onto Monolith, which is the studio that was taking care of Wonder Woman. So they were considered a prestigious studio, and their development and leadership staff, along with that, came with a premium price for development. They were a very expensive studio to run. So following the success of the Shadow of Mordor series, which is what they're best known for, they were contenders for Game of the Year. They were greenlit to make a new IP, but they were greenlit to make a sequel to Shadow of Mordor, which was Shadow of War. However, that sequel drastically underperformed because management decided to put loot boxes into that game, which a lot of people forgot about. I personally forgot about it. So when that game came out, it kind of tanked at first. They didn't remove the loot boxes until 6 months in. After that, the game seemed to have a relatively new life when it was offered as like a PlayStation Plus exclusive and things like that. So after that game came out, was released, Monolith was said to be working on a brand new IP called Legacy without a confirmed budget. And they were leveraging this gameplay loop of a hybrid procedurally generated AI narrative. What the hell was that? WB's leadership kept stringing them
AI,
along.
bro. That's what I was wanting about.
Yeah. So their leadership kept stringing them along while secretly in the background they were effectively saying that like this game is never coming out. And the way they described it is they would have these meetings with them and they would give that like classic phony sales pitch. They'd be like, I love it. We'll have your people talk to my people. But that never happened. They would ghost them for months at a time. And then eventually management came in and said, you're not doing this. You're doing this other thing we want you to do, which is Wonder Woman. So they took they specifically asked them to make a Wonder Woman game. And when that happened, the top 7 senior-most leaders at Monolith left the company all at the same time. 6 of them found a new studio called Cliffhanger Games, and then from there they began recruiting from their existing Monolith team. So they effectively gutted all of Monolith Studios when this happened. So Right after that, the Game Awards showed the CGI trailer for Wonder Woman. And this was before anything had taken place. There was no development. They basically had scraps of a template down. And they did that because they were trying to recruit people. They wanted new blood into that might be excited off this giant rise in popularity of superheroes and games and the hype behind the Batman Arkham series and what Monolith had done before, and Spider-Man was doing really well at the time. So they started the development on this game where they utilized the old Monolith system, the Nemesis system that we discussed, where you kind of put enemies against each other for your own benefit. But they tried to invert that and have Wonder Woman do this thing where she turned enemies into friends. And after giving presentations, management was just like, it's not hitting. We don't think it's going to sell, right? So they had them retool the game years into the new development of this new studio, this gutted studio with an all new staff. It's the husk of the former Monolith. They retooled it as basically a God of War clone. And at that point, they kind of kept going along with that. Showing me Goku now, or what was that? I just on PlayStation Plus.
Yeah, don't mind me, bro.
However, so then eventually, just this week, everybody got shit canned. So the studio closure was a big shock to everybody who was there, and they didn't find out that they were going to be sold off until the same time everybody else did. And the reason that they sold everybody off was because the studio carried a huge premium price tag. They didn't think they were going to be able to sell a studio that cost that much to run to another company, and have that company be willing to pay for the licensing to continue working on development of the game that they're not really interested in even making anymore. So it was kind of that was a big thing. Then the other studio under that was WB Montreal. And basically, I'm not going to read all the stuff I prepared for this, but the long and short here is that WB leadership soured on WB Montreal because they felt after Batman Arkham Origins and Gotham Knights that they couldn't be trusted to make their own games anymore. They just weren't the same level of hits that Rocksteady had produced for them, so they turned them into a support studio. So now under this new guy, JB Pritt, now they're focusing on their big four IPs, which is Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, Mortal Kombat, and DC. But when it comes to DC specifically, leadership only gives a fuck about Batman. They don't care about anything else right now.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And then there's also some rumors that are circulating in the background that Jason Schreier did confirm that the next game that Rocksteady is making is a Batman game. He did not confirm this next part, but there are tons of rumors out there that are saying from pretty reliable sources that it is a Batman Beyond game, which would be really cool if that's actually the case. I can't see how they could go back to the Arkhamverse again after the irreparable damage they've done at the end of Arkham Knight and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And that is about it. And the last bulletproof I'll say is that they did confirm that there has never been a fucking Superman game in development at any point, and we don't deserve nice things on this planet. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow,
So
they
in
sooner have
summary,
made a Wonder
lot to
Woman
unpack.
game. Wow.
Don't worry, James Gunn will save us, and he'll put DCU games into production immediately. I mean, they talked about it, right? It's definitely something that's still on the top of their mind. But True, I know you want to talk about Wonder Woman and why DC hates Wonder Woman and they don't want her to succeed, and they have been flushing her down the toilet for the past, I don't know,
100 years.
Yeah,
You
since
go
she was
woke, you go
created.
woke, True.
Yeah. Okay, let's just start with this. I don't like not liking things. I truly don't enjoy it whatsoever.
True
But
likes liking stuff.
over
I
I
love
love
you
liking
can't
We're on
you
the
can't
opposite side.
you
Big
can't
fan of
not-
hating shit.
you can't not liking things, because that is not liking something. So you
Yeah.
have to you can only like liking things.
Yeah, this is an internal battle that you're facing right now on live on
Yeah.
air.
fighting the demons. But Wonder Woman came out in 1941. She's going to go public domain in 2037. In that entire time, there's never been a Wonder Woman animated show or a Wonder Woman game. For the singular most popular female hero of all time, you can argue maybe someone was more popular at a specific time, but consistently over time, nobody else has been the same level as Wonder Woman. She's the only other character outside of Superman and Batman that has been in publication since they first came out. Since 1941, she's never not been in publication. even when the Comics Code Authority shut down a bunch of stuff, those were the 3 comics still being put out by DC. Yet, for some reason, DC is incapable of giving her content outside of her being in the background of other things. And I don't understand how this makes sense. How you can have a character who, we saw the polls that came out recently. Crisis linked this to me a couple days ago, where in 31 or 35 out of the 50 states in the US, she is the most popular hero. Right, she was more popular than the rest of them put together. There was a poll.
Female hero.
Yeah, female hero. Sorry, yeah. There was a poll a couple of years ago.
Did they include Katana in that poll? Because I gotta say,
no, she got excluded.
There was one little blip,
Yeah.
little blip on the United States map where it was 100%.
And then
sorry.
a couple of years ago, they did the same thing for worldwide. She was the only female hero to be popular in multiple, to be the most popular hero in multiple countries as well. So this is a character who has kept up their popularity with no support from the company whatsoever. Right? She got an animated movie in 2009. It's like it's still in the top 5 most sold DC animated movies. There is no other character, right, that has kept up that level of popularity without support from outside of the comic book media.
In spite of Warner Brothers.
Yes, in spite of Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Look,
All of this
the
is
other
in spite
new
of Warner
popular
Brothers.
characters, Iron Man got the 3 movies, became extremely popular. Same thing with Deadpool. These characters get a couple of things and you instantly get popular. You just need to focus on that a little bit. Right? This is a character. Warner Brothers has this inability to use characters that aren't called Batman. Right? And it truly annoys me because there are people still eating off the 90s Static Shock show. How many people wanted a Static Shock show? How many people would still watch a Static Shock show today if they were to put it out? Yet it's not called Batman or Bruce Wayne specifically, yet so they don't give a fuck. It's super annoying because this goes to not even just her. It goes to her supporting cast, right? Which character has been in more Teen Titans book than anybody else? It's not Dick Grayson. It is Donna Troy. Yes, Donna Troy has been in more Teen Titans than any other character. Has she been in any of the Titans mediums that's come out? One of the most popular teams?
Nope.
No. Okay, so and then you then look at even look at her rogues gallery. Imagine you watching an animated movie. Would you ever sit there and say, "Oh man, it makes sense for me right now that Doomsday or Mongol or Brainiac are just getting beat up by the Vat family in base"? Would you ever look at that and say, "Yeah, this is reasonable"? No. Go and watch the DC animated movies. Go back and watch them. Cheetah shows up a lot. The amount of times Cheetah as a villain has just been beaten up by random Bat family members as a background hero when she's like one of Wonder Woman's main antagonists, right? This is a certain level of disrespect that the character gets over and over again, right? And this is not just her entire rogues gallery, right? And then this is a character that's extremely popular. We have this Mount Rushmore discussion. Oh, who should be? The answer for that Mount Rushmore is not a question. It should be the Trinity and Spider-Man. There is no other female character, right, that has had as high impact on the entire genre as Wonder Woman, right? Look at any other like fake superhero team. Do you know who you always have there? You have a Superman clone, a Wonder Woman clone, and a Flash clone every single time.
True.
That entire like princess warrior thing came from her. Yet you're incapable of pushing this character forward. Right, you're gonna force her onto a company that doesn't want to do that. Force the people at the top to leave. Does this even sound like a reasonable way to deal with a character with this level of popularity and this level of impact for their entire history? Right, and we know that this outside medium things can work and push characters forward. Look at Marvel Rivals came out recently. Nobody knows who Magic was before Marvel Rivals. They might have seen whatever no one saw that movie. I don't remember the name of the movie. It's still trash.
Yeah.
No one cares, right?
Jeff
came out.
the Land Shark.
Yeah. Magic that Magic
now.
shows up in that one game. Her comic comes out later. It's the highest selling comic of the month. Are we going to say that doesn't have an impact? That you can't have an impact outside of that? Because the comic books at this point, if you're not reading comics, it's going to be very hard to get into it. Characters don't get popular from pure comics anymore. You need to be pushed on the outside media. Wonder Woman 2016 came out. It then took 4 or 5 years for the sequel to make. I don't even necessarily blame them for that one. You know, the DCU was having its issues. But you've had
Still
80
is
years.
having issues.
Are we going to say that? Oh, are we going to get to the point of Wonder Woman never had an animated show or game because they don't care about Wonder Woman at this point? They said it. It's not Batman, so they don't care. We're going to get to the point where she goes into public domain before she gets any of these pieces as one of the most popular characters in the superhero medium of all time. People will say, "Oh, she doesn't have stories or extra."
Yeah, no
nothing.
film trilogy.
At this point, too, True, with how long modern game development takes, a good solid 30 to 40 hour single player game with modern, running on modern Unreal Engine with a good voice acting cast by good, good studio. It takes minimum 5-6 years.
Yeah,
you have a very short window of time to get your shit together before you're put in a position where, like you said, True, you're going to start seeing people putting those god awful Winnie the Pooh horror film like levels of shit together with Wonder Woman if you're not careful. Yeah. So I mean, but then again, who knows what's going to happen with any law in the next 4 years? It's literally the wild fucking west.
So the thing with the public domain laws is they can only use like the first appearance, of the character. It's the year that the character was published, because what a lot of the characters, like with Batman specifically, a lot of his most important cast and the creations and fixtures of the lore, those came in subsequent years, so they're not accounted for. It's not like Batman goes public domain now every villain or side hero or adventurer he's ever had. It's like once that happens, it will be probably Bruce Wayne, the first bat suit, just the first variation, probably the red roadster or whatever he was driving, Commissioner Gordon, and I think the bat, maybe not even the bat signal. I'm not even sure if that was in the first, and that's it. So
you see how we're talking about Wonder Woman and
just using
right back to Batman.
No, I was just using that to show as like as just an example of the time span.
I mean, that was an epic. That was an epic. That was an epic dissection and teardown of Warner Brothers and DC's leadership and how they failed the character, True. And I will say, during points, I was getting PTSD flashbacks to like when I was a kid and like I got an F on my test and like I was just getting railed at by my parents. Just like I felt like I was like in trouble. I was like, I will do whatever I can to get Wonder Woman something.
I'll call my governor right now to get Wonder Woman.
I also want to call out James Gunn.
Okay,
but the point is,
hold on. True, go ahead.
So Gunn is easily able to fast track certain things, and the only thing that I'm going to give Gunn is maybe because of the nature of the Paradise Lost show, because they will announce everything. They'll announce a Clayface movie. They'll talk about Sergeant Rock. It wasn't until somebody specifically asked him about the Wonder Woman show that he ended up talking about it whatsoever. And the only thing that I can say is, okay, well, maybe because that show is inherently going to have to talk about the gods and you're going to have to like make up lore for that. So maybe you don't want to rush that. You want to like get that solid foundation of how it's going to work for the verse. So it's being slow. But outside of that, this is a character you're gonna fast track all these other characters. You were able to make Peacemaker season 2, and you didn't say, let me think about the Wonder Woman stuff. Nah, that wasn't the case. Oh, you gave us Cersei, who lost to bumfuck nobodies.
True.
Listen, Gunn. Maybe you can go.
A nobody.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe you can fix it.
How long would it take you? Go back to that toy shelf, find a Weasel figure. How long would it take? Find a Wonder Woman figure. How long would it take?
Wonder Woman I could do in 5 seconds.
There you go. There you go. That's the point. Yeah. There you go.
It's like
I have some great Wonder Woman figures.
It should be one of those characters where like, okay, we have a plan for it, and this is one of the characters we're trying to push forward. There's some other people that I really think I don't know why there's no Flash. Well, I know why there's probably no Flash. But again, Wonder Woman should have been one of these characters where we're either getting news or they're like, okay, listen, we're in production, so we don't want to say too much about it because we don't want to leak anything. Okay, cool. At that point, I'm like, okay, I don't want spoilers.
But you're True to interrupt your rant. The issue that I think, so another thing I didn't bring up when I was talking about because I didn't really think it was that pertinent, but there were some rumors of some other games that were taking place. WB Montreal was working on a Damian Wayne Batman game for a brief period of time, and they were also working on another Suicide Squad game that both got shit canned. And then there was a Flash video game that was in the works for a bit of time, and almost all of that stuff, including it's highly hinted at that the main reason that a lot of this stuff was shit canned was due to the financial performance of Wonder Woman 1984, the death of the Snyderverse, and the Flash. So I think that they're trying.
There
to
are outside factors for sure.
But
the second Wonder Woman was terrible.
But the thing here is that like, how many bad? There's been a billion bad. I mean, there hasn't been a great Superman movie in decades, really.
Since Man of Steel, right? Yeah.
Man of Steel was pretty good, but everything after that sucked, and then everything before that, except like Superman 2, wasn't great. But we got a shitty Superman game. I feel you. We've never got another one. It was N64 was the last time we got a passable one. I think you brought up last time that there was like some weird Superman Returns tie-in game, but I've never even seen footage of it. But when it comes to Wonder Woman, you had a prestigious studio behind this. You had a monolith. You had a group of insanely talented people that could have got this done, and somebody somewhere just decided like,
let's screw them over.
It's not worth it.
And that's just the whole studio, not just the game. It's like above Wonder Woman. They're like, everything this studio has provided us. Nah,
Wonder Woman in a way got all of the Lord of the Rings future sequels canceled too. That's crazy.
It doesn't deserve it.
And I mean, it's not just that. Like, okay, I do get that. I do get what True is saying. Like, the Wonder Woman stuff is inexcusable, and at a point you start taking like a closer look at it, and you're like, do they actually like Wonder Woman? You start connecting the like red thread to your pins on your does Warner Brothers hate Wonder Woman, and it kind of does add up a little bit. Like, her most recent animated movie was also like a JSA movie, wasn't a Wonder Woman movie, when Batman got one and Superman got one, for like the post whatever Flashpoint universe, whatever that was. So she got screwed over there. She's in Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. She's the only one that didn't get brain controlled, but let me tell you what.
Only
she's
one
also
who got
the only
killed.
one that died for real, because all the other ones are still alive.
I would also, I'm not even too mad at that. I think that's one of the few really good representations of the character.
I think it's a good representation of the character, but having her being the only one of the Justice League that actually gets killed is crazy.
It's bad, but right.
And she dies fighting a fake clone of Superman.
Not even
she wasn't even able to get the kill. She wasn't even able to win that fight. So her death is pretty much pointless. Like, what does she afford to the team anything? Not really. Like, I don't know.
But I do think that
off our chests.
That Wonder Woman is a character that needs to take priority in the DCU. We have a Superman movie coming out. We have a Batman movie coming out. Plus, a Batman gets his own Elseworlds live-action trilogy. But, I mean, it's Batman. At the end of the day, you see the shirt, you see the posters in the back, you know what fucking time it is. But I do love Wonder Woman, and I agree with everything True said.
I think we all agree. I think Nick, though, brought up an interesting point in that Wonder Woman, like, it's both true. Wonder Woman is so big that she should get these things. They should have come out a long time ago. But also, like, there was one horrible Aquaman game on the GameCube. There was one horrible movie tie-in Green Lantern game. There's never been I think the only Flash game is a GBA tie-in to JL, the DCAU show. Like, and there's never been a good Superman game. It's been Batman and Spider-Man nonstop. They're on the forefront. They're iterating with like gaming technology. Spider-Man 2, Tobey Maguire with the swinging mechanics back in the day, Batman Arkham Asylum, 3D, Metroidvania, all those things. They've been pushing the envelope, but like, what else have they even attempted? Gotham Knights was an attempt, and I appreciate the attempt.
And that was a bastardized live service Destiny ripoff that was like so obvious that you could tell.
Yeah, they had to retrofit that because Avengers flopped. Which, that's even a larger point, because someone decided, let's make an Avengers game, and it flopped. Like, we talk about Marvel Rivals, that's the exception to the rule. If you're not Spider-Man, and even people turned on Spider-Man 2 pretty quickly.
Yeah.
The PS5 version. it's like
Well, that's because
it's been-
Spider-Man fans hate Spider-Man more than anyone else.
and he
It's
has
nitpicky.
the most intense ravenous fan base for sure. But it's rough out here for video game like Hulk. When has he gotten a good game? Like
Yeah.
The PS2, the
Hulk
the
Ultimate
360?
Destruction.
Yeah, Hulk.
Yep.
That's the only probably
That's a
like
classic.
yeah, that's a good Hulk game.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough for video game
the
superheroes.
The only other thing I would say is that Marvel does a little bit better job because they do have ensemble cast, right? From Ultimate Marvel 3 to Ultimate Alliance to the X-Men
Legends back in the
Legends.
day.
Yeah. So they had the 2 X-Men Legends games. Wolverine's had a couple of games.
What was the new game that came out recently?
Marvel Rivals?
No, before that. It was like a turn-based something.
Oh,
like that.
right.
Midnight Suns,
Midnight
Guardians
Suns.
of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Right.
Like we can look, and there is a
But that
people
flopped.
look at the universe. It did
Midnight
flop,
Suns did
but it was
flop,
good. Both of them
that
flopped,
and
but they're
Guardians.
both good games though. Like that's the
Yeah,
problem.
which is more important.
Yeah, and so for Marvel, I think people know more Marvel characters from pop culture. If let's remove the MCU, how would you what DC characters would people know that aren't completely Batman related or Superman related? It's Arrow and Flash. Those are where people are getting characters from, and that's really it. There's no like ensemble thing or good representation of characters. Again, I love Injustice, one of my favorite games of all time. Every single character in that verse looks like dog shit. The only character that there is no character in the verse that came out looking good. They all look like pieces.
Yeah.
I would never want to meet a single one of them. You're telling me that Hal Jordan, the greatest will in the universe, saw Superman turn evil? Is like, nah, I'm not fighting you, bro.
I'm yellow.
I'm like, we can. Billy, actually, no, I'll give you. Billy was like, wait a minute, what are y'all doing? This is stupid. You're telling me Barry Allen and Hal Jordan watched Superman kill a kid, and we're like, oh.
Damien went crazy. He was like basically wearing his dead brother's skin, running around like I'm Nightwing now, while like slitting criminals' throats.
Like, God, I love the gameplay, but I actually can't play Superman or Wonder Woman in those games because I'll be like, man, I can't wait. I'll press the play button. I'm like, okay, loading up. And then she'll be like, man, I can't wait to murder children. I'm like, okay, well.
Yeah, you're telling me Cyborg, like Vic Stone, quarterback of the Titans, is just like everyone's just marching to the beat of Superman's drum, like at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, it is.
Sir, yes, sir, Superman.
And it's one of those things.
I've been waiting this day my whole life.
Finally.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where I feel like some characters survive because people are like, oh, this is Injustice Superman. They know this is not what Superman behaves like. But the amount of times I have to keep pressing not recommend the stupid like, oh, X person owns Wonder Woman because she's not a very smart person. I was gonna get the podcast cancelled.
Let's paraphrase this.
Yeah, it's just. It is pretty disgusting how just bad DC is at doing characters that aren't called Batman or Joker or Harley Quinn. Like, what are we doing here? Like, it is.
They can't do Joker right. Don't get me started on that character.
Wait, I feel like James Gunn, he's got like
it's almost been 20 years since The Dark Knight. Just saying. Anyway, go ahead, Crisis.
James Gunn has to establish so many characters. I feel like Wonder Woman is stuck because she's gotten a chance, right? Like the first movie, even her, no one really complained about her in BVS. People were like, oh, this is cool because if you're going to Snyderize any of the Trinity, Wonder Woman can cut people's heads off and people will, jump. They'll throw their popcorn in the air. They'll be cheering so loud. Superman and Batman, not so much. But Wonder Woman, I think everybody's okay with, or at least Doomsday. She can cut Doomsday into pieces. That's
good.
Cool. We're good. So, and then, her first movie was pretty good. And so she had a chance, but like Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, Peacemaker, these are characters that Marvel they've had to dig. They're scraping the bottom of the barrel, right? They're at that point, right? And they've been forced to that point. Really, Phase 1, they were already doing that because like we don't have Spider-Man, we don't have X-Men. Fantastic Four, like we can do without them.
I guess.
Yeah. We'll use Iron Man to be the linchpin of our cinematic universe, and it worked for a while. Yeah. But DC, they've been mining Batman forever. With Superman, they keep trying. They kept trying. So it's like he's got to raise the whole a rising tide, carries all ships. He has to do that with all of these lesser known characters.
Yeah.
And Wonder Woman, like I said, she's kind of stuck where like she's definitely A-list. And she definitely should have a movie. That show should be like instantly greenlit. Let's get the wheels moving on that already. But I can understand from James' position of like, well, Green Lantern has the worst movie ever. So maybe we should fix him first, because at least Wonder Woman has one good movie. She's cool in BVS, and she has one pretty good solo outing. Green Lantern has nothing. He's got jack shit.
Do you know what he does though?
You're speaking my language right now.
He has more animated movies, more games, and more animated shows than
That's
Wonder
true.
Woman.
Once you broaden the horizon, yeah, it is. But his game was terrible. So
the problem is with these characters, like these are like the gods of superhero media as it has existed for nearly 100 years. Beyond Marvel, for the most part, the Justice League is the standard. They're the first like real superhero team that assembled in that way. And you have the Flash, Aquaman, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, and the seventh member, if you want to say it's Martian Manhunter. I mean, I don't think he's on the level. I don't think he's at the level of these other characters, but those six that I named
Superman,
are the
Manhunter.
peak. Yeah. And if you fumble them, a fumble of one of these characters is catastrophic, and we've seen the fallout of doing that. The Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern gets made fun of. I mean, it never stops, and Ryan Reynolds won't shut up about it, bro.
Every Deadpool movie makes
Aquaman
over $1
has
billion.
been just shit on for decades. Every single time like something bad comes out, they'll just start dogpiling him again. And the Flash, we've seen this with the Flash movie. If that was another superhero, it would not have been shit on the way it was. You have to get these characters right, and maybe if somebody hasn't come correct with Wonder Woman yet, that's the problem. But you need to find somebody that's gonna do it and do it right. Drew's passionate about it. Let's get him on the horn.
It's also just the last thing, because
Gail Simone's right there. She'll write a movie tomorrow about Wonder Woman.
It's also Batman and Spider-Man, because they've had so much content. You can have a bad Batman show, or you can have a bad Spider-Man show.
Yeah, he can recover easily. It's everybody else that you have to treat very carefully. Which is why we are not getting anything lit for the Flash, because he just shit the bed. Wonder Woman and Aquaman.
At least we know
recently.
At least we know, even though it's imperceptible to the human eye, Dead Kid Flash is somewhere in Creature Commandos, so he's got that going for him.
Yes. Wally's another character that gets shit on a lot to the level of Wonder Woman, but
Flash does have the greatest animated movie of all of them, though. So
it's pretty good. Yeah,
is
the
Flashpoint
animated
Paradox.
movie?
I love Flashpoint Paradox. I mean, for the longest time, I was a staunch defender of that, and I still defend it. I think from start to finish,
it lowers Wonder Woman's stocks though, because she's an evil, tyrant warlord.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but
it's like every time someone wins, Wonder Woman loses.
Yeah,
she can't.
It's terrible.
And you can't get mad at me, True, because you're not into disliking things. So
the only thing True dislikes is Warner Brothers and DC. He's on the podcast, to fight for the change that he wants to see in the world. He hates them so much that he wants to just let them know every week. That was the plan all along.
Listen, I hate ranting. I hope we can rant about cool stuff. I can't wait to rant about how much I love Superman.
You loved every single second of that. It was very passionate, and I believed it, bro. Like you were actually serious, and I was. You were beating the shit out of your desk. I was like, damn, bro. Don't scare me. If we upload that word for word, bar for bar to like Twitter tomorrow, it'll go viral on Wonder Woman Twitter. Like everybody, this guy's spitting. Who is this guy?
Yeah.
Follow him now. And then they see that like you're never mind.
Oh, my following list? Yeah.
Don't follow Drew on Twitter. Don't find him.
Just
don't want to
retweet.
see it.
Is there a way to unfollow, hide my following list?
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. That's an option.
Yeah, your likes are hidden now at the very least.
Oh, okay.
Thank God. Sometimes some stuff will come up on my timeline. I'm like, True must have liked this.
Oh man.
Well, is there anything less
nowadays.
that needs to be said?
No, I think we
Yeah.
just about hit it. We went a little long today, but it was a passionate episode, and we had a lot of things to say. Glad you could join us today. We were hitting like all-time high peak concurrent viewers today, which is awesome. Thank you so much to M Enterprises for the super chat. Really appreciate you. We'll give you a free question next week if you want to ask one, since you didn't ask one today. But thank you for the love in the chat there. If you want to leave a super chat in a future episode, we will answer any questions or comments that you have. Just leave us a super chat. We do that at the end of every episode. Thank you to GamerSubs for sponsoring this podcast. You can check them out at gamersubs.gg/key issues to save 10% on your next order for Crisis, Nick, and True. This has been the DCU Experience. We will catch you next week to talk all about lanterns.
Peace.